This is chapter Japan's Crisis. All right. What is Japan's population problem? There are too many people in general, and the country does not have adequate resources. There are too many elderly and young people competing for jobs. There are too many elderly and not enough workers or young people to support them. All right. So here in this chart, we've got children, and you can see from 1950, it kind of has been slowly going down. And working age is pretty dramatic. Like they're more dramatic than the kids. So they went up and then boom's tanking. And then the elderly is also going down. But they're higher than the working group. So even by this graph, you can tell what the answer is. But here we go. Japan has a major demographic problem. 26% of its population is elderly, the largest percent of any country in the world. That's because Japan's birth rate is declining as its overall population. In other words, a huge chunk of its population is getting old and leaving the workforce, and not enough people are being born to take their place. So it's gonna be the last, well, in my case, it's the last one. So let me paste that. So there's number 1. All right. By 2050, the OECD projects nearly blank percent of Japan's population will be elderly. So we've got 55, 40, 26. It looks like it will be in the next paragraph. It's hard to appreciate the scale of this crisis, and it is a crisis abstractly, which is why this eye-popping chart from a new report by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development is so helpful. It shows the percentage of Japan's population, that's elderly, green, working age, blue, and too young to work, red, estimated all the way out to 2050. What you see is a massive rise in the percentage of elderly in Japan at the expense of the other two categories. By 2050, the OECD projects nearly 40% of Japan's population will be elderly. Not projects. Projects. Ugh. So number 2 is 40. Thank you, Malia. All right. The core reason that this is happening is because women have to choose between having a career and getting married, retiring, motherhood. All right. This is very, very bad. Countries need new people to support the older ones who can't work and to generate economic growth. If Japan doesn't turn its birth rate problem around or somehow make each of its workers a lot more productive, it's in for a disaster. The working age population is falling by about 1% per year, and the rate shrinkage will eventually approach 1.7% per year, so that even productivity growth of 2% or more will deliver very low aggregate or per capita growth, the OECD report explains. There will be simply no way to sustain high living standards and quality public standards in a super aging Japan unless the country is able to achieve much higher rates of productivity growth. How did this happen? Partly, it's that Japan has some of the longest life expectancies in the world, so its old people are living longer. But Japan's low birth rate, one of the lowest in the world, in fact, is the biggest reason. Hang on. The core reason for Japan's problem is that the structure of the Japanese economy forces women to make a terrible choice between having a career and having children. Many are choosing their careers, which means the country is simply not having enough babies. The difficulties for women in the Japanese labor market can be traced to three core elements of Japan's economy that have been in place since World War II. Lifetime employment by one company, payment based on seniority, and unions with memberships from one company rather than from the entire industry. These three treasures, as they're called, are great for workers who already have good jobs, but they hurt people who want to switch jobs or who take significant amounts of time away from work. Japanese workers work some of the longest hours in the world and are expected to develop what are called firm-specific skills, such as learning the company's particular way of accounting or developing personal relations with its clients. So this is motherhood. All right.